Time now for the quintessential quartets, inspired by, some other stuff going on in terms of quartets, but here it is. Love the classical music. We're going to go through some of the major areas that give us our top four. So you kick us off, my friend. Top four position players.
Okay, we start with number one. How do you want to go?
Go four through one.
Four through one. Juan Soto, number four.
Wow.
Signed that big deal, well over $700 million. Great year last year with the Yankees. I know the Mets are expecting big things. I put him at number four.
Huh?
Number three, Mookie Betts. Everything about him reeks baseball player. Handles the media really well. He's a spokesperson not only for the Dodgers, but the game of baseball. A lot of young players look up to this guy. He's the entire package. I put Aaron Judge number two, that big guy, all rise. There aren't a lot of guys that can handle that market in L.A. He's the front guy. He's been a good player since he's put on a uniform for the Yankees. As he goes, the Yankees go, and that's why I had him at number two. Number one for me was quite simple. That was Shohei Ohtani. We haven't seen anything like him. I can't compare him to Babe Ruth. I never saw Babe Ruth play, but I know one thing. That $700 million contract raised a lot of eyebrows. All of a sudden, now you look at that $700 million. You and I aren't the ones paying it. But you're like, wow, that's money well spent. International star. And there are so many of the casual baseball fans that don't follow every day, but they follow this sport because they know about Ohtani.
It's always showtime when Ohtani's out there. My top four, I'm going with the two-time MVP, Bryce Harper. Love what he's done for the Phillies. As you and I said yesterday, that 13-year, $300 million deal seems like a steal. That's what he's done for Philadelphia. Number three, you can't spell hit without wit. Bobby Witt Jr. is a future MVP. This guy was second in WAR a season ago. Incredible for the Royals. He's locked up for that big multi-year deal. Aaron Judge is a two-time MVP. Had one of the greatest seasons ever by a right-handed hitter a year ago. And Ohtani, like you said, a three-time MVP. He's a special player of the likes of which we've never seen before. All right, quintessential quartets. Now we got top four starting pitchers. Who you got?
This was really hard to narrow four, but I came up with number four was Corbin Burns. He's my pick to win the NL Cy Young. Big part of the Baltimore Orioles. I think he's going to help the Nationals help the Diamondbacks stay relevant. Paul Skeens could have been easily number two or number one. The reason I put him at number three, I want to see it for a full season. Not like you have to. We saw that board early on. There isn't anything he can't do, and he does everything really well. Tarek Skubal, best left-handed starting pitcher in the game right now. Burst on the scene, great fastball, good slider, good changeup, big game guy. I went number one, Zach Wheeler. In my opinion, the most dependable, the most reliable. You go back to that postseason start against the Mets in game one, couldn't have thrown the ball any better. And there was a time when Met fans were like, go ahead, let him go.
Yeah.
He doesn't stay healthy. He's put on a Phillies uniform. He's dependable as they come.
Neither of us knew each other's list, and yet both of us had the same number one. We'll get to Zach in a second. I'm going with Paul Skeens at number four, the Rookie of the Year award winner and a potentially future Cy Young award winner. Tarek Skubal, as you said, best left in the game. I went with Blake Snell, two-time Cy Young award winner. I just love his stuff. I look at elite stuff, his strikeouts. I know he walks some guys, but Blake Snell, when it's a dogfight, my guy steps up. And Wheeler, like you said, may have had Tommy John with the Mets. To me, is the guy. I wish Garrett Cole was healthy. I would have had him in that top four, but the Tommy John, that dings him up a little bit. All right, next up, top four relievers.
I'm going to start with the relievers, and I think number four, Helsley last year with the St. Louis Cardinals. Big-time year. The concern is he going to be able to have that kind of year. I don't know how relevant the Cardinals are going to be, and with that spot there, get some saves. You got to be on a team that scores some runs. Number three, Cade Smith. I know he doesn't close games. Most dominant reliever last year in the 6th, 7th, and or 8th inning. Ran out of fuel a little bit in that series as it went on against the Yankees. Powerhouse guy. Devin Williams. I think this was the trade. Everybody wants to talk about the Yankees. They bring in Max Fried, but this was a huge acquisition. You combine that bullpen right now. They get the lead in the 8th inning with Luke Weaver, as good as it gets, 1-2 in that bullpen. Number one, Emmanuel Clase. Forget about it. I know he had a couple of hiccups in that series against the Yankees last year. They rode this guy hard all season long. He can pitch multiple days in a row. Electric cutter, good breaking ball to go along with it. For me, he's numero uno.
We had three of the same four. I love the fact you're the Canadian Cade Smith. I'm looking at Mason Miller. This guy's unbelievable for the A's. Throws 103 miles an hour. All they said about Williams, that pitch looks like a screwball. It's so good. Helsley, very underrated with the Cardinals. Clase in a class of his own, but I love Mason Miller. Now with the A's in Sacramento, this guy's lights out when he comes into a game. We're going right to the top four personalities in the game. What do you got?
I'm going to go with number four, Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yes.
I think he really attracts to the younger people that watch the game of baseball. Has the glasses on, the hair flowing, plays with a lot of flair. He is terrific. Number three, I went with Jazz Chisholm Jr., right? Wow. He's not typical what you would think of the Yankees in the past, right? He brings some flair. He brings some dramatics. He's number three. Freddie Freeman, just such a great spokesman. Always has a smile on his face, keeps himself in great shape. One of the many reasons why the Dodgers are so good. And number one to me is Mookie Betts. I just think he handles himself with class. He's just a guy that he's up front and up center, doesn't mind the media attention that he gets. He doesn't mind giving back to the community. For me, he's number one.
I like a great list, especially Mookie. For me, number four goes for the nickname Italian Breakfast. Vinny Pasquantino. How about the Pasquatch? Unbelievable. When that Sasquatch gets going in Kansas City, there's nothing better. Number three, my buddy Timmy Kirkchin. I once called him in the celebrity softball game. He was unbelievable. Seeing Kirkchin round the bases, all 5'5" him amazing. The Philly fanatic. Honestly, no better personality, no better mascot in sports. And number one is not you, my friend, but your brother.
Oh, Stan!
Stan Plesac is one of the greats. Loves the Minnesota
Well, he's
Twins.
got to do some work on those glasses, though, man. Gotta fix that tape, right? Got to get some black tape on those glasses.
Can't wait to see Stan Plesac MLB Tonight at an earlier time. We'll see how that goes. All right, thank you for joining the Quintessential Quartets. So some would argue spring training, what's the big deal? But sometimes, if you have good spring training, that can then augur well for the regular season. Sack, let's go through it. Who's the guy who had a great spring training you think can have a good season?
Bo Bichette. I think if the Blue Jays are going to be relevant, they need that tandem of he and Vlad Jr. Had a really good spring training. Last year, you could almost just, that was a forgotten year.
Yeah.
Battled a bevy of injuries last year. Be a free agent at the end of the year. And if the Blue Jays window is still open, it's going to have to stay open in 2025. If Bo hits, they're going to be in contention in the East. They've gotten some breaks with the injury to Garrett Cole with the Yankees. I think Bo Bichette bounces back and has a monster year.
1078 OPS in 18 games, 373 average and 4 home runs. He played half the season last year, under a 90 OPS plus. So you're pretty convinced, hey, he wasn't healthy, it's an aberration. Guys have that happen. You look at the larger body of work.
He's too good of an athlete. When you watch him play, if you watch him stand in the box, you watch his mannerisms, you could tell that he's a middle infielder, shortstop kind of guy. When he's swinging the bat really well, has tremendous power to right field, not just a dead pull guy. He can hit for average, he can hit for power, plays a good shortstop. He has a big year. He's going to have a bonanza of offers this coming winter.
That's afraid you'll be highly motivated. 71 OPS plus a year ago. His career average is 121. You're right about the good athlete part. Big tennis guy. I've talked to Bo about that before. Who else had a really good spring that impressed
Pete Crow Armstrong of the Cubs. This guy had a really good spring training, and there's an element to the game that we really haven't seen, power. And if he starts to hit for power, he might be the best defensive center fielder in all of baseball.
Nice.
Covers all kinds of ground. He throws well enough from the outfield, can steal bases, the kind of guy that could score from first on a ball hit down the line. 3 home runs in the Cactus League. Look at that batting average of 500. Has a chance to be a very, and I mean a very special player, a guy that has power, the guy that can hit for some average, and he can run too. Terrific skill set.
I had a chance to interview him along with Mark DeRosa there in Arizona. And to your point with the defense, I said, what would you rather have? Game-winning home run robbery. Every time, home run robbery. Takes a lot of pride in that defense.
Yeah, and did you believe him?
I think so. He said it
Okay.
with such confidence. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Okay, I'm buying it too then.
He can run as well. All right, meantime, my choice is here. Matt Chapman. Obviously plays a great Gold Glove defense, but his offense so far this spring, Sack, 421 average, 6 home runs, a 1395 OPS in 15 games. Having seen him in Toronto, he's a very streaky player. I mean, a couple of years ago in April, he was the MVP candidate. Then he slowed down, signed to the Giants. Everyone knows he can pick. He's a Gold Glove defender. But this kind of offense, this would be a great sign for the Giants.
If he hits and Willie Adames hits at shortstop, all of a sudden you look at that Giants team entirely differently. I'm with you. A couple of seasons going into May, this guy looked like the second coming of Mike Schmidt. And then he kind of fell on hard times the second half of the year. Giants took a flyer on him last year. If he hits and Adames hits, but one thing with Adames, he'll post up every day.
Yes.
Guy's an everyday player.
Adames signs a 7-year, $182 million contract at 3,900 a year ago in terms of home runs and RBI. They also have Jung Ho Lee back. That's good news for them. The other guy I'm looking for, Cody Bellinger. Had a great spring. First time in the Yankee pinstripes. He hit 400, 8 extra base hits, and 1124 OPS in 18 games. And if you like the analytics, Sack, his exit velo is back to where it was with the Dodgers. He hit the ball real hard.
I think with the things that you'll probably notice early on with Cody Bellinger, I thought for a while he had some injuries. He had that issue with his shoulder that I think hurt him for a couple of seasons. He had to cheat to get to certain pitches, made him vulnerable to the off-speed pitch. When he cuts his swing down, particularly with 2 strikes, he's so big, he's so strong. I think he's going to have a big year for the Yankees. A lot of pressure on him coming into this offseason, right? They acquire him in a trade. All of a sudden, Juan Soto leaves. Now you're going to have to be that guy that takes over there. There was pressure on him getting to Tampa in spring training. Had a great grapefruit league.
And that's what I was about to ask you. Defensively, he can play a lot of different positions. He's
And
a great base runner.
play them well. He can play
Correct.
first base, center field, left field, right field.
Yeah.
You can play him just about anywhere.
He's an excellent base runner as well. How do you think he vibes in New York? As you said, high expectations.
Listen, he's played in L.A., he's played in Chicago, big market teams. I get it. There's no place like New York, but I think he'll handle it well.
All right, in terms of spring training struggles, there's a big-time player who you're not concerned by the fact he had a quiet spring.
Francisco Lindor, forget about it. I know last year got off to a little bit of a slow start.
Yeah.
He was the most valuable player for the Mets on a really good team that made it to the postseason. You could make a case offensively. He single-handedly carried them the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Battled some issues down the stretch with that ankle. They weren't sure if he was going to get as much playing time. He battled through that. Look at that spring training, 140, 145. I'm not too concerned about that with the home runs. I think he's one of those guys. He's going to get ready on Thursday. Expect him to have another big year.
Those were his numbers from last year's spring, and then the regular season, of course, went bananas, especially in the second half. My pick, as far as I'm not concerned about him, Cole Reagans. So far, it's not looked good for the Royals this spring. An 8.20 ERA in 6 starts. That's 18 2/3 innings. But again, had a chance to talk to him there in Surprise, Arizona. And Reagans, to me, is the real deal. This guy, I like him so much, Zach. He was 4th in Cy Young voting last year. I'm picking him to win the Cy Young. This guy's unbelievable. These were his numbers as far as 2024. The spring training, whatever. I'm fiddling around with some stuff. In the regular season, 223 punch-outs. This guy was awesome.
Yeah, listen, the one thing you have in spring training, there's two different schools of thought. The Cactus League in Arizona, light air, the ball travels. Normally the playing surfaces, even though they're all natural grass, it's built for scoring runs in Arizona. You'll see a lot more pitchers do better in the Grapefruit League in Florida with the humidity. The ball doesn't travel quite as well as it does in Arizona. I'm not concerned with him.